You know, before you do something to somebody, you must always think. Okay? When you decide to do something to somebody, listen to me. When you decide to do something to somebody, you must think about the consequences. Yeah. Sometimes you feel empowered, that you feel unshakable. You're not worried about what may happen in the future. You must be very careful and don't be too sure about yourself, because the future is very blurry. Nobody sees it clearly beside God. Somebody you neglect today, tomorrow could be somebody that you need. I know people don't like that. Yeah, some of you rather die than ask for help from somebody that you know you hurt in the past, or somebody that you've had a beef with because you like beefs. I don't know what kind of beefs you like, but you must be very careful. Anyway, Vladimir Zelensky takes a flight to South Africa, and many South Africans are very angry about that. We're going to find out about that. What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing good. It's a beautiful day. Thank you very much for stopping by. It's quite cold here. Yeah. Thank you for being patient. So you're very much appreciated. My name is Zack. If it's your first time, thank you for stopping. You're going to love this show. No doubt about that. For all my brothers from a long time, thank you very much for being part of our private group. You're very much appreciated. We can continue build each other on our private sessions. Okay, let's go. We are in South Africa. Here's the map. President Zelensky, he came from this place. You see that? Ukraine. He took a flight all the way to South Africa. And many South Africans are very angry about that. Watch this.
Zelensky is not welcomed here because we don't want Western imperialists here. During the President Zuma's presidency, we joined BRICS. We are part of the BRICS Plus countries. And as MK, we are not apologetic about it.
Now, why is Zelensky in South Africa? You're asking yourself. Zelensky went to South Africa to strengthen the relationship between Ukraine and South Africa. Well, this is the same Ukrainian president that seemed to be not very much interested when Africans traveled to Ukraine to go and beg them to stop the war. Okay, so for context, a few African presidents came together saying, let's go to Ukraine. How about we go see Zelensky and have a discussion with him so we can try to stop the war? Then we're going to go to Russia and talk to the Russian president and see how we can stop the war. Well, they took a flight, they don't pay for flight, it's for free, and the government gives you money for, it's a vacation. Anyway, the intention was good and they were leaving to go to Ukraine. The South African delegation stopped at Warsaw in Poland. Look at Poland? Yeah, they got there and they got stopped. Diplomatic people were stopped in an airplane for 24 hours. They refused them to get out of the plane. So if they had to shit, I can just imagine, it must have been really bad. And all the fart and okay, anyway, sorry. Let's continue. A diplomatic body being stopped in an airplane for 24 hours. Why? There was no reason. Because they did not have a piece of paper. Many people believe the reason why they were stopped is purely racism.
They are delaying us, right? They're putting out the life of our president in jeopardy because we could have been in Kiev this afternoon already, right? And this is what they are doing. And I want you guys to see this, right? How racist they are.
Many people feel like Poland is one of the most racist countries in the world. Would they have done the same to Americans, asking them for a piece of paper? Even if there was a piece of paper missing, would they have done to the French or a delegation coming from Germany? Absolutely not. This is the president's delegation, for crying out loud. You don't act this way. Anyway, they were left and they went to Ukraine, had a discussion with Zelensky. While they had a discussion with Zelensky, this is what one of the Ukrainians said.
The African delegation had no goal for settling the conflict or finding a solution. Obviously, this is not their task. It's not on their level or their competency.
So the Ukrainians said clearly the Africans are not up to the task. So they don't have the brains, the capabilities, the narrow cerebral actions to find a solution to the situation. This is well beyond their capacity. Like humiliating. These are presidents, these are fathers, these are leaders from various countries coming to you to have a discussion. You say, nah, these Africans, they are absolutely, it's not their level. Yeah, that's what was the situation. Then they went to Russia and had a discussion with the Russian president, and the Russian president was very kind with them. As you can see, look at Ukraine. This is Ukraine. Everybody looks very angry. This is them in Ukraine. You can see it's tense. Everybody's angry. And this is them in Russia. Everybody's smiling. Well, we can maybe understand in Ukraine, they were being attacked. They were being bombed. Possibly the reason why everybody was angry. Well, in Russia, apparently, there's a treatment that was sort of different. Looks like they had a little more fun in Russia than they had in Ukraine. In Russia, Vladimir Putin showed them a piece of paper saying that Ukraine had signed a deal saying they're going to end the war. There was a discussion that had happened already between Russia, Ukraine, facilitated by Turkey.
Этот проект этого договора был парафирован руководителем переговорной группы из Киева. Он поставил там свою подпись. Вот он.
So there was no need to worry. After they had signed that piece of paper, then the British ex-leader Boris Johnson went to Ukraine and had a discussion with Ukrainians. That is when the Ukrainians turned their back to the piece of paper they had signed with Russia. So they had an agreement of stopping the fire, ceasing the fight. As soon as Boris Johnson arrived in Ukraine, they tossed it out. Now, many people believe Boris Johnson is the person that went to Ukraine and said to them, listen, don't accept whatever this guy is offering. Okay, we're going to support you. We're going to give you the tools that you need, the guns, the money. You go to war. The African presidents who were looking for peace returned with no resolution. In the meantime, these other Ukrainians say that this problem is beyond these Africans. They've come here to look for food. That's what they said.
Just want to be on the information agenda and resolve their own issues, like increasing the amount of resources they receive primarily from Russia, including food.
You have come to look for food. Because you're poor, you have nothing, you probably, same way people think, Africa is a poor continent with that little kid shirtless with a big stomach and flies flying around his face, all the roads are messed up and people drink from the wheel, you go to the river to drink water. And I mean, the only truth about that is we do ride giraffes. That is truth. We ride giraffes, but you must make sure it's on a Monday, on Wednesday and Friday. If you do on Tuesday, they're going to be very angry. We also do have hyenas as pets, but before you touch the hyena, you must make sure you touch a cat. If you don't touch a cat, she's going to bite you. And they know faces, they can tell this one is from Zimbabwe, they only give you the left side. This one is from Malawi, they only give you the right side. They never give the right side to the Zimbabwe, never. Let's get back on track. They were trying to say that these presidents are not equipped enough, they're not smart enough, they're Africans. So Africans meant nothing. These African presidents went back to Africa with nothing. Now, sometimes later, Ukraine sent people to Africa to open embassies. Now, let's think about this. Why are the Ukrainians opening embassies in Africa? Because there was no embassies in the past. Why were there no embassies in Africa in the past? Why is it urgent now to have embassies in Africa? If it wasn't, it's never been urgent for you. Has something changed? Is it the war? Do you need support from the Africans? Now you're showing them that you can talk to them. You say there were nothing to you in the past before the war. Now you're at war, you realize that you may need their voices. Therefore, you need to build. Now, what prompted them sending people to Africa to open embassies is because when they went to the United Nations trying to vote against Russia, Africans refused to vote against Russia. Why did Africans refuse to vote against Russia? Because Russia never came to Africa to colonize anybody. That's the truth. I mean, if you want to know what somebody will do in the future, you just look at what they've done in the past. If you look at the past, Russia has never come to Africa trying to colonize anybody. Matter of fact, Russia supported many people, many countries to try to free themselves from colonialism. Yes, when Europeans left Europe coming to Africa looking for lands, gold, diamond, timber, Russians refused to go and persecute other brown people. They stayed home. So the brown people didn't forget. Like I said to you, when you do something to somebody, do you mind worrying about what may happen in the future? I mean, people don't forget. Matter of fact, Russia supported South Africa, black South Africa during apartheid. Apartheid is a system where white people of South Africa dominated over black people. Black people had no rights at all, no lands, nothing, no schooling. They were just workers. If you played, they beat you up, they throw you in jail. At that specific time, Russia or USSR at the time supported the black people, especially the ANC, which is the political party where Nelson Mandela comes from.
But Russia must be given a practical support, because when we needed one, they didn't give us non-alignment position. They didn't give us this neutral nonsense position. They gave us arms. They gave us arms.
Matter of fact, Russia supported black people in South Africa with military training. The ANC armed wing Umkhonto weSizwe received military training, weapons and logistical support from the Soviet Union. Soviet military academies trained ANC fighters in guerrilla warfare and strategy. Thousands of South Africa exiles were granted scholarship to study in USSR and other Eastern Bloc countries. Financial aid. USSR provided significant financial assistance to the ANC and other liberation movement like South African Communist Party, and this support covered travels, housing, food and organizational operations. So for some reason Russia refused to join the other fellas. Okay, they supported black people in Africa. So does it make sense to you? It's very difficult to turn people against them. Now, that's perhaps the reason why many South Africans are very angry to see Cyril Ramaphosa invite Vladimir Zelensky in his country, because they believe he is a puppet. They believe he's a puppet. I didn't say I still want to travel to Ukraine and go see those nice chicks. I'm just kidding. They believe Zelensky is a puppet of the West. They're angry at the president, saying he shouldn't have invited him. Now the point is this: Zelensky came only for a couple of hours. They say as soon as he landed, he started talking about returning. So he wasn't very much impressed about coming to South Africa anyway. His excuse was Ukraine is being bombed, I have to return. Well, Ukraine has been bombed for the past couple of years. So why is this bombing of today making it special? Can't you say a few more hours, just 24 hours? Well, he knows the reason why he had to leave. Some other Africans are not happy with Zelensky because they feel like when the war started in Ukraine, many Africans were stranded in Ukraine and they were trying to run away, get to the trains to perhaps go to Poland or other countries. And many Africans were stopped by the train stations.
These people left without taking the blacks, man. None of the blacks, man.
They were separated, the whites from the blacks, and all the blacks were being stopped. And at some point, a lady came from Nigeria. I want to get into the train. They said to her, no, ladies first. She said, but I'm a lady. They just looked at her.
I was begging. The official literally looked me in my eye and said in his language, only Ukrainians, that's all. That if you are black, you should walk.
So ladies first was an excuse to let specific people get in the train while the black people were being put aside. So many people saw that, and that hurt. I mean, the social media platform all show those videos, and many people are still reminded of that. They don't like it. And number two of the reason why many Africans are not very friendly with Ukraine. In Mali, Ukraine openly supported terrorist group against the government, where they unalived many government soldiers. One of the Ukrainians said, we were at the head of this operation.
The fact that the rebels received the necessary information that allowed them to conduct a successful operation against Russian war criminals, the whole world has already seen this.
The operation was a success because we provided the terrorists with intelligence, with weapons, with tactic and strategy. They unalived many Malians, and including Malians, obviously there were some Russians. I mean, I can understand you want to unalive Russians because they're attacking your country, but would you unalive Russians in a foreign country where you're unaliving also people from that country? Actually, you unalive more people from that country for a bunch of Russians. Does that make sense? Like, does that make sense? Let me know how you feel about this. It was a great pleasure. Do you think Cyril Ramaphosa is ignorant for bringing in somebody who's a friend of the West, and the West is obviously against BRICS? Or do you think Cyril Ramaphosa is playing a high game? He knows exactly what he's doing. With the pressure coming from Trump, it is necessary to show that he's not non-aligned some way, to be balanced, Let me know how you feel about this. It was a great pleasure. The lesson here, fellas. When you do something to somebody, you must always make sure don't overdo it, because you don't know what's going to happen in the future. You may need their help. Life is weird. God bless.